I'm anti-abortion. I've made that clear, but I'm not anti-women. And that gets down to denying women access to health care. I mean, now we're telling them where they can go to the doctor. And that's something you need to look at. But I'm like Governor Daniels. Why are we spending all this time on these social issues where nobody's going to change their mind? Almost 10% of Hoosiers are out of work. And you know, that's not putting any food on the table, that discussion. And I've said that all along. We need to be concentrating on jobs.
So you want a truce that would leave the Medicaid law as it is now, or you want to?
You know, I don't necessarily know that. I do think we ought to have a truce on all these social issues, but by the same standpoint, I'm not very comfortable with that bill as they passed it, because they keep trying to define this as an abortion issue, as a pro-life and pro-choice issue, and it's not. It's women's access to health, and they have denied, by passage of this bill, women's access to health.
So would you ask the legislature to repeal it?
You know, I don't know. I quite possibly could. If they sent me something like that, I know I'd sign it. Right now, to say what I would do when we get to the legislature, I've been about jobs. I know Congressman Pence would want to deal with social issues right at the beginning. But if that came to my desk, I'm confident I would sign it.
With regard to term limits, there have been a number of people in Congress, including Andy Jacobs, who promoted term limits, but Jacobs always used to say that he didn't believe in unilateral disarmament. And there appears to be no appetite in Congress for term limits. Does it make sense to file a bill if it's not going to go anywhere?
Well, I don't know Congress's rules, but I do know that, you know, the amendment process here in the legislature, if you don't file a bill, you can put an amendment on a lot of legislation of the same subject matter. And he was in control of the House. He was the number 3 man in the House. He was in a position he could at least make a little action on it. I point that out because during this past week, when they kept saying, oh, you know, they kept doing this Tennessee waltz on this deal, that this was one of the articles that had his name on it that they referenced. And so my only question is to ask him then, I mean, you put your name on it, why didn't y'all do something about it?
When you bring up Planned Parenthood, do you really think you're going to reach that many people who care about that issue who haven't been swayed one way or the other already?
You know, I do, and let me tell you why. I think there are 2 groups out there. I call some of them Luger Republicans, and I call the other ones Southern Indiana Democrats, who like me, and they're not all in Southern Indiana, but like me, they're pro-life, but they're not anti-Planned Parenthood. The idea of denying a woman access to birth control, this whole issue is about unwanted pregnancy. So we're going to take away birth control and we're going to stop pregnancies? Duh. I mean, I didn't go to med school, but, you know, I do understand that's not going to happen. And then denying women access to health care, it's just wrong.
Can I make an observation?
Sure. You make all you want to, bub.
Okay. You know,
Here, come right over here.
It's a fair question as to whether or not this is going to resonate, this particular issue. But the issue itself demonstrates the difference between what is defined as a conservative person in Indiana. I think most people in Indiana are fairly conservative. But we're not talking about conservative here when it comes to Mike Pence. We're talking about radicalism. I think most people would agree that, yes, I'm conservative, John Gregg is pro-life, but he's not for doing away with women's health care and access to that health care. That's radical. And it illustrates not only on this particular issue, but right on down the line. When you look at his call for shutting down the national government on the debt ceiling, all that's radical. And those views have always been there. And there's an important distinction between John Gregg, a conservative Democrat, and Mike Pence, a radical Republican. And this issue, I think, illustrates the point.